So it is a bit brighter today, but it's still very wet underfoot. And when it rains, it's raining heavy. I just got caught out. So I thought this afternoon I'd run away and do some chrysanthemum. Now chrysanthemums have kind of fallen out of favour. They've become very unfashionable. A lot of people see it as a older person's thing. And I think that's a real shame because chrysanthemums are a really hardy, and really hardy to the UK actually, plant. And they're good down to -5. They don't need a lot of specialist treatment. They don't like the wet in the winter. So what I tend to do is literally dig them up in the winter, pot them up, because they don't actually get that big. Probably 2 to 3 litres is the biggest they'd ever get. When I pot them up, I can sometimes dry them. And then I just leave them potted up in an underground greenhouse, just keep the soil down, that's about it. And then in the spring, when they start to shoot up and they've rooted up the plant, normally around April time, once the frost kind of isn't so bad, just plant them back out in the border. Now my long-term goal is to have a small polytunnel down where my domes are. I'm not sure if I've shown that in the videos yet. And have somewhere where I can just leave the chrysanthemums, because although I say you can do all of that, now that I'm up to about 200 plants, it's taken me a long time to dig them up and pot them on and then replant them each year. And it's taken a lot of space in the unheated greenhouses. So if I could just have like a permanent little tunnel that they could just stay in, I think they'd actually keep flowering right until like November as well. And it would just give me something that I could use for the shops and stuff that bit later. So what I'm doing here is I'm just filling up these little 7cm pots. Now this is just multi-purpose compost, but I have added in a bit of bone meal. And this compost at the moment is dry. And I'm just filling up the pots. And then in a second, I will give it a really good water before I start putting the cuttings in. This just helps to compress the compost a bit. You could add a bit of sand, but I don't actually find that with chrysanthemums you need to. So I just give them a really good water. So I've just brought up a couple of different pots. I've got lots of pots to choose down from there, so I'm just going to take like maybe 1 or 2 from the ones that I've got and then just keep coming up with different ones. One thing I am particularly bad at is actually labelling things. So obviously these had finished flowering and I didn't have any labels, so I have no idea what colour these are going to be, if I'm being honest. So it's always a nice surprise, you know, when you take cuttings and you don't really know what you're getting. But I do know that I like my chrysanthemums, so yeah, I'm just going to take cuttings and then we've got a surprise. So these have been soaking. You can see when you tap it down, the compost just sinks that little bit. That's fine. That means it's nice and wet and it's all just sunk. Now I use Vitex organic rooting powder, and I get this from my little like agricultural shop that I have. I've had to buy a new one because I managed to tip the other one over in my drawer. It created such a mess, honestly. It was disgusting. So yeah, all I do is, you don't actually want them to be like really big and established. I think this will probably be okay. So I'm going to take it off about here, just at the bottom of that leaf. Then I'm going to remove these couple of leaves. And then, which I have forgotten to do, I dip this in a little bit of water and then I dip it in the rooting powder. That just helps it to stick. I make a little hole and I pop this in. Now with the cuttings, getting a little up top myself here, with the cuttings you don't want the cutting to hit the bottom. This is where all the water sits and it'll just be too much water for it. So you're looking for that cutting to go down and to kind of sit about 2/3 of the way down. And then I just use a little bit of dry compost on top. I don't re-water these because, like I said, that bottom bit is going to be really sticky wet and the water can just soak back up. That's not a problem. That just kind of keeps them in place. And there you have it, a little chrysanthemum cutting. And we'll see how they do in the next couple of weeks. Only 19 to go. So I think that one's a little bit better. It's a slightly longer stem on it, so that'll probably be a little bit sturdier. So all of the chrysanthemums are in, well, I say all, the bigger ones are in cold frames, the smaller ones are in a greenhouse. Now, this is what I mean about checking things. I've got 4 here, which are right at the back, which have obviously been a bit neglected because I went over all the chrysanthemums just after Christmas. So when I took these out of the ground, they were still, some of them still have a few flowers on them, and so that I didn't stress them out too much, I kind of just put them in the pot and let them be. So normally what I would do is then go back over it just after Christmas and get rid of all of this, give them a tidy up. As soon as you start seeing new shoots, really, you want to get rid of all the old. Obviously these few got missed so I thought it was a good opportunity to at least show you. They're actually really dry as well, but they are okay. But yeah, they definitely need a bit of tidying up. So yeah, after Christmas you'll start seeing shoots, obviously not as big as this, but new shoots coming up, and that's when you want to come along and just cut off all the old stuff. I don't cut them right down when I first pot them up, because you never quite know where the new shoots are going to come from. So I'm not going to take cuttings from this, but that's nice and tidy now, and then I'll give that a good water and I can go back in the cold frame and hopefully it'll perk up a bit. Now this one isn't looking too good, so it will be interesting to see if this one does pull through. This is very, very dry. Even the new shoots have gone limp and very dry looking, so I might have lost this one, but we'll tidy it up and see. There is new shoots coming at the bottom. Maybe I'll just take these guys off. And see, right, what I'm going to do, I'll put a little lollipop in here so that I know this is the one we're going to monitor and see if it actually comes back to life. You wouldn't believe it, but my water bucket is actually nearly empty. Just because I've been using it so much the last couple of days. Oh no, I've done it again. Drop over my thingy. So there we have it. So that's 25 chrysanthemum cuttings. That's just picking out random big ones that look like they had ones that were good to take cuttings off. Over the next couple of days I'll have a look at the smaller ones as well, and I expect to probably get about the same. So yeah, maybe like 50 cuttings in all, maybe over the next couple of weeks, maybe do a couple more, but that's probably enough to sort of handle and deal with anyway. So these are going to go down on the sand bed, and then they can just stay a nice moderate heat, and then hopefully in a couple of weeks they will have rooted up nicely. So this here is one of the cold frames with the chrysanthemums that we were doing the cuttings from, and if you look down here, here's the little fella with the lollipop stick. How good is he looking? He's perked right up, so really chuffed with that. So I think that just shows how hardy these are, because I mean I really thought he was dead. He looked terrible, but no, he's perked right up, all looking healthy, more growth coming on. Really chuffed with that.